Hey guys, blood oranges are in season and today I'm going to show you how to make a spectacular pound cake recipe with them. I love this dessert idea because this pound cake is so moist and delicious and flavored with just the right amount of orange zest. We're then going to pour a beautiful blood orange glaze on top of this cake that gets its spectacular color just from the juice of these beautiful oranges. So we're first going to begin by prepping our pound cake. So in the bowl of an electric mixer, you want to beat together 1 cup of softened butter and 1 1/4 cups of sugar. And you're going to beat together the butter and the sugar until it's nice and fluffy. And at that stage, you're then going to combine 4 eggs, one at a time, beating in between each addition and scraping down the bowl as needed. Then you're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and 2 teaspoons of the fresh orange zest coming from 2 of your blood oranges. Now, I have done some tests with this, and I think it's much better to use the wider grate of a microplane than the finer grate, because you'll get a lot more citrus flavor that way. Now, after you zest these oranges, don't go ahead and peel them and eat them. We wanna hold on to them because we're gonna need the juice for the glaze, so just set those aside. Then in a medium-sized bowl, you're gonna whisk together 1 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You can whisk that up until combined, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna add this flour in third, and you are going to alternate with 1 cup of full-fat sour cream, beating in between each addition, scraping down the bowl. Now, if you live outside of the United States and you can't get sour cream, you could also use Greek yogurt. Just make sure it's the full fat. Or creme fraiche would be great too. Then you are gonna pour this batter out into a 9x5 loaf pan that has been buttered and floured. Now, this is a tip because in the past I have tried to use baking spray. You don't wanna use the baking spray. Even the kind that has the flour in it, this pound cake will stick. So I don't know why. I think it's maybe the citrus that's in this cake that makes it a little bit sticky. So if you want it to release effortlessly, go old school with the butter and the flour. So we're gonna put this in the 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for just 45 to 50 minutes. This is the type of cake that will look done on the outside because it'll start to turn very golden brown. And if it gets too golden brown, do cover it with a sheet of foil. But you do wanna test it with a long skewer because you wanna make sure it's fully baked all the way in. Once it's done, you want to allow it to cool completely before attempting to release it. And then meanwhile, we can prep our candied oranges. If you're not familiar with a blood orange, they are a spectacular citrus fruit. They're one of my favorites. In fact, I just bought 2 little blood orange trees so that I can have them in my yard, hopefully by next spring. Now, if you're wondering about the garden channel, not to worry, it is coming back. I'm shooting a bunch of segments next month, so you can look for those episodes to appear in mid-May. And if you're not already subscribed to my garden channel, what are you waiting for? Head on over there and subscribe, and I'll see you over there in mid-May. Okay. So for the candied oranges, we're gonna take 2 fresh blood oranges, and we're going to slice them into 6 orange wheels. Now you wanna go probably about 1/4 of an inch. And what's interesting about it is you'll see the variation in color, and this is what makes them so beautiful from orange to orange. And that's the best part, if you can get oranges that have that really interesting look. And I find the best way to sort of control that is when you're at the market and you see the big mound of oranges, grab some that have kind of a red skin showing through and some that are orange and don't have the red skin. And that way you can kind of place your bets that you may get some nice strié effects. Then in a large saute pan, you're going to take 3/4 cup of white sugar and 1/4 cup of water. We're gonna set that on simmer until we get a nice sugar syrup. You'll see it'll start to become translucent and will begin to bubble. That's the perfect stage to drop in our orange wheels, just in a single layer. So if you can't fit them all in your pan, you can do this in batches. You just don't wanna crowd them. And let them simmer like that for about 3 to 5 minutes on each side. And you can flip them with some tongs. And in fact, for this stage, I really like to use the tongs that have the non-stick property because they'll be a little bit more gentle on these orange slices that do get a bit delicate once they start to candy. And then when it's time to remove them, take your tongs and just kind of grab the wheel with one big pinch. You don't want to grab the end of it because it could start to tear. So just give it one fell swoop. And then you can place them on a cooling rack that's fitted inside like a baking sheet because that way it'll catch all of the syrup as they start to drain. So the oranges can stay just like that at room temperature and just set them aside. And then we're gonna make our glaze. And for this part, you're gonna go back to those oranges that you zested, cut them in half and juice them. We're looking for about 3 tablespoons of juice. Then you're gonna take a cup of powdered sugar and work it through a fine mesh sieve, just so that you don't get any clumps in the sugar, because that will help us create a smoother glaze. And then you're gonna add the 3 tablespoons of the juice and then whisk that up, and you'll see you'll get the most beautiful pink frosting. It'll look like you've colored it with some sort of food coloring, but the color is really just coming from these oranges. They're unbelievable. Okay, so now that we have all of our components ready to go, we can assemble this beautiful pound cake. We're gonna take the cake and place it on a cooling rack that's fitted into a baking sheet. This will help catch the glaze once we start to frost it. And then you're gonna spoon that glaze over the top, just making sure that you're kind of forcing it to drip down the sides a little bit, because that'll make it extra pretty. So if you need to help it along and push it over the edge, you can do that. And then you're gonna go to your candied oranges and you're gonna place 2 in a row, and you can slightly overlap them. You did get some varying colors, so some being really dark purpley and others being a little bit lighter and orange. Just kind of alternate those colors, because I think that also adds to the decorative effect. Then what I like to do is take this pound cake and put it on a platter. And then of course at this time of year I don't have the blood oranges yet because my trees are too young, but I do have some beautiful blossoms. So I do like to garnish it with a little bit of blood orange blossoms on either side of the cake. Now, if you don't have access to citrus blossoms, not to worry, you can use some fresh mint. That would also be beautiful. And when you bite into it, you will see how delicate this pound cake is with that little hint of orange. This would also go great with some homemade whipped cream or a little bit of sherbet on the side. I hope you guys give this one a try and let me know what you think. Subscribe for more quick and easy recipes, and I will see you back here next week for another one. Until then, bye.